In recent weeks, one of the biggest aviation news topics involved the situation at Spirit Airlines, who, back on November 18th, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The airline had been struggling financially, especially following its failed merger with JetBlue and then another failed merger with Frontier. Literally 3 hours before I got the news regarding Spirit filing for bankruptcy, I and some friends had booked a flight with them. So naturally, after seeing headlines like these, there was some concern, but thankfully Spirit never made any significant cutbacks. Free Spirit members like myself also received a message from CEO Ted Christie regarding the bankruptcy and reassurance that our travel plans wouldn't be disrupted. Now, the last time I flew Spirit, I mentioned that they, just like Frontier, added a series of bundle options to better serve their customers' needs. I managed to find a really good price for Spirit's Go Big bundle, the most expensive option that has you sitting in the big front seat, the airline's version of a budget first class. With that said, come along with me on my most frequented route, Chicago to New York LaGuardia, on Spirit's A321. Today's journey starts on Thanksgiving morning 2024 at the Champaign-Urbana Amtrak station. Instead of driving to O'Hare and paying over $100 to park my car for the next few days, it made much more economical sense to take the trains over to O'Hare and then carpool with my friends when it was time to come back to campus. Now, having taken Amtrak from Champaign numerous times, this was by far the busiest I've ever seen the station, which made sense given it was Thanksgiving. Needless to say, it was rather chaotic with the train being completely full, seats being hard to come by, and even one group of passengers going to Carbondale soon realizing the hard way that they had actually boarded the train to Chicago. When we got to Union Station, my initial plan was to take Metra's North Central service directly to O'Hare, but even though it was a weekday, that service doesn't run on holidays, go figure. So I walked over to Clinton Street for Plan B, the good old CTA Blue Line. Today's train had the new 7000 series railcars, which are really a nice breath of fresh air compared to the older trains. The Blue Line station is right under the main O'Hare terminal complex, so reaching terminals 1, 2, and 3 is just a short walk. However, you will have to take the airport train to reach Terminal 5. The hallway to the terminal area displays the countries of each sister city that Chicago is paired with, and as someone with a Pakistani background, it's always a pleasure seeing Lahore represented, even though that's not where my family's from. Spirit flies out of Terminal 3, which is currently undergoing some renovations that I wasn't able to cover this time. As is common practice when flying Spirit, I checked in online and would proceed straight to security. Now, passengers who book the Go Big bundle are entitled to this thing called shortcut security, which I did use, but it was kind of useless today because there was literally no one here. It's also worth noting that the checkpoint by the Spirit check-in doesn't even have TSA pre-check, like how? So that's also something to keep in mind. But yeah, they say that Thanksgiving weekend is always the busiest travel period during the year. That may be true, but Thanksgiving Day itself? Not at all. I mean, you saw the train station earlier, but here I was at O'Hare, one of the world's busiest airports at what is usually a busy time of day, 2 to 3 p.m., and just look at how few planes there were. Either way, the significantly low number of people today, at least over here in Concourse L, made the entire airport process a little less stressful. Now, Spirit and Frontier both used to be notorious for policing their luggage policies. Ever since both carriers adopted the bundles, it's become easier to bring more bags on board for less. For example, my Go Big bundle includes not just the usual free personal item, but also a carry-on and checked bag. Not only that, but also priority boarding, free snacks and drinks, free Wi-Fi, and the big front seat. Our A321 this evening is November 680 November Kilo, which is one of Spirit's many A321s that were built in Mobile, Alabama, as opposed to Hamburg, Germany. Boarding started slightly behind schedule given the aircraft arrived 40 minutes late from Dallas. Either way, I made use of my priority boarding and was the third person on board. Spirit's A321 seats 228 passengers with 8 big front seats and 220 standard economy seats. This evening, I am seated in 2A. Now, just like normal Spirit seats, the big front ones don't recline, but they do have a non-adjustable headrest and pretty decent padding. The seat back is pretty bare aside from a large pocket and 34 inches of leg space, which compared to Legacy Airlines is definitely less, but compared to the normal Spirit seats, it's great and you have a good amount of space. And no, Spirit doesn't charge extra for tray tables because in the big front seats, they're stored in the armrests. For some reason, a dummy seatbelt was also waiting at my seat when I boarded, but I gave it back to the flight attendant. There's a small console in between seats where you could place drinks, for example, and that's really it for the seat. Even though big front passengers do get free Wi-Fi and internet, there are no power outlets in these seats, so plan accordingly. And it's also worth mentioning the overhead air vents and call buttons, which are free to use.
You must remove your face covering prior to putting the oxygen mask over your nose and mouth. Place the elastic band around your head and tighten by pulling on the ends. Secure your own mask before helping others. Oxygen will be flowing through the mask.
The tray tables in the big front seats can be used folded in half and also slid further toward you. When you fold the table out, it rests on a small ledge by the console, making it extra sturdy. As mentioned earlier, passengers who book the Go Big Bundle get free internet access. You receive a unique voucher code in the confirmation email that you have to redeem on the Wi-Fi website. Otherwise, this is sort of what you could expect to pay for internet access. Spirit's Wi-Fi site also has a free flight tracker, which I always appreciate because I love knowing where I'm flying by. Now, as far as the internet itself goes, I was blown away. Spirit uses the Thales FlightLive satellite Wi-Fi and it worked really well. I was able to browse and watch on YouTube without issue and also looked up my flight on Flight Radar 24. Snack service began about 20 minutes after takeoff. The crew first came around taking drink orders. Yes, drink orders like Southwest, and after passing out drinks, they brought out a snack basket with multiple options. I was told I could take whatever I wanted, so I took a bag of pop chips and a brownie. Now, I don't know what I expected, but I was blown away at how amazing the service was tonight. I would definitely say that this was one of the best services I've ever had on a short-haul domestic flight. The rest of the flight actually flew by, which was a shame, and soon enough we began our preparations for landing. Our scenic approach took us over eastern Pennsylvania and much of New Jersey as usual, but it was when we entered New York City that things became interesting. I'm assuming that we were initially supposed to land on runway 4, hence the straight-in approach parallel to Manhattan. But basically at the last minute, it seems that the winds changed as we turned away and began to fly over Long Island. We eventually came back around, passing Kennedy Airport and landing on runway 31, which, if we were initially supposed to land on this runway, would have had us executing the famous expressway visual approach.
Airlines would like to welcome you to New York. Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened and carry on items stowed until the aircraft has come to a complete stop at the gate and until the captain has turned off the seatbelt sign.
It really is a shame to see what Spirit and its employees have gone through in recent weeks. I do hope the best for them, especially after the wonderful experience that I had on tonight's flight. The service was absolutely perfect, and given the bargain I got for this ticket, I was more than satisfied. With that, welcome to this lesser-known part of LaGuardia Airport, and thanks a lot for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next trip report that'll feature a very special aircraft, but until I see you then, take care everyone, stay safe, and goodbye.